You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 60. Guanzhong tries to convince Cao Cao, but is dismissed. Pang Tong convinces Xuanda to seize Shu. Guanzhong is his name, and a very odd-looking man he is, with his pointed head, his bulging forehead, flattened nose and sticking out teeth. He is also very short, but with a deep voice like a great bell. When asked what this plan is, he spells it out. He points out that Cao Cao is now without equal anywhere in the land. It is time to pay due respect to him with proper gifts and praise. If he could be persuaded to attack Guanzhong, Zhang Lu would not be able to invade their land of Shu. Lu Zhang likes this idea a great deal, and begins to prepare the gold and pearls to be presented. Thus equipped, Guanzhong sets out for the capital, but not before secretly collecting maps of the land of Shu. His journey is noted far away by spies, who report all this to Kong Ming, and he sends them back to watch what happens next. After arriving in Xuchang, Guanzhong tries day after day to gain an audience with Cao Cao, but to no avail. Cao Cao now sees himself as so important he doesn't bother with minor affairs. Eventually, by bribing Cao Cao's servants, Guanzhong does gain an audience. As Guanzhong kowtows, Cao Cao asks abruptly, "Your master, Lu Zhang, has failed to submit any tribute for many years now. Why?" "Well, you see," replies Guanzhong, "we've so many thieves and robbers the roads are unsafe, and so we can't send the tribute." "What thieves and robbers? I've made our country safe, so how can this be?" To which Guanzhong replies, "Well, in the south there is Sun Quan, in the north Zhang Lu, while to the west, of course, is Xuanda. At the very least they each have over 100,000 men. In the light of all that, how on earth can you say the land is safe and at peace?" Now Cao Cao already dislikes Guanzhong's appearance, and this dislike is increased by his blunt comments. Without another word, Cao Cao rises and leaves the room. His servants lecture Guanzhong on how he should have behaved, but Guanzhong simply says, "Sorry, but we Riverlanders from Shu in the west don't bend and scrape," and, so saying, he prepares to depart. At this someone speaks up, saying, "You lot really have no idea how to flatter, do you?" The speaker is Yang Xiu, a first secretary to Cao Cao. Intrigued by Guanzhong, he invites him to join him for talks in his library. Asked about the land of Shu, Guanzhong tells of the difficulties of access either by river or by road, and praises its productivity and its people. "Nowhere else on earth is so productive," he brags. In answer to Yang Xiu's questions, he speaks about the men of fame that Shu has produced, the highly educated people at the court, and their skills. He then questions Yang Xiu on why he holds what appears to him to be a lowly role, which makes Yang Xiu bristle. "I have great responsibilities for the welfare of the army." Guanzhong says, "I understand that Cao Cao is ignorant of the teachings of Kung Fu Zi and Meng Zi, 13, or the strategies for warfare of Sun Zi and Wu Qi. I gather it's said of him that his only interest is in self-aggrandizement. Surely, you can learn nothing from one like this." To try to show how wrong he is, Yang Xiu brings out a scroll with the text of a book called New Book of Mengda, claiming that this had been written by none other than Cao Cao himself and based on Sun Zi's famous 13 strategies. Guanzhong quickly reads all 13 chapters and then, laughing, says, "But this is nothing new. All the children in Shu know this old book. It was written centuries ago in the time of the warring states. 14 Cao Cao has simply copied it." Challenged by Yang Xiu to prove this, Guanzhong immediately repeats the text word for word. Astonished by this feat, Yang Xiu in admiration says, "You learned it in just one reading? You really are astonishing." A poet has said of Guanzhong, "A very unusual-looking being. Bright, honorable, but so strangely other. His diction like a mountain stream. One glance at a page, and he remembers it whole. His courage exalted above the rest of Western Shu. His understanding universal. So well read in philosophy and sacred texts. He reads just once, then knows what's next. Inspired by all this, Yang Xiu offers to intercede for him with Cao Cao. This he does by recounting Zhang Song's extraordinary skills of memory, and the challenge he has thrown down to Cao Cao's book. I wonder, says Cao Cao, whether in some way my writing has accorded with more ancient wisdom? Interestingly, Cao Cao orders the book destroyed. Cao Cao agrees to meet Zhang Song the next day, while inspecting his troops. So it is that, the following day, Zhang Song observes the military might and splendor of Cao Cao's troops. Asked if Shu has anything like this, Zhang Song answers, "We've nothing like this, because we rule by benevolence and justice." Stung by this rebuke and resorting to boasting, Cao Cao recounts how his troops are triumphant everywhere they go, to which Zhang Song then says, "Indeed, your military triumphs are well known, such as your defeat at the Red Cliffs, cutting off your beard to escape at Tong Pass or fleeing the archers at the River Wei." By now seething with rage, Cao Cao orders his immediate execution, and is only dissuaded by Yang Xiu pointing out that Zhang is an emissary of another state. But Zhang is expelled from the palace. As he packs his bags, he suddenly thinks that in order to fulfill his mission he has one choice left, to go and visit Xuanda, not least because he is inspired by what he had heard of him as a man of benevolence and justice. Imagine his surprise and delight, then, when, as he and his escort cross the border into Xuanda's lands, he is greeted by Zhao Zilong, and an official escort of 500 cavalrymen, sent to bring him with all due honor to Xuanda's city of Jingzhou. When he reaches his hotel, he is even more delighted to find 100 men lined up to greet him. Guan Yu himself comes to formally welcome him, and has ordered a banquet to honor him. The next day Zhang Song and Guan Yu ride to meet Xuanda, who, when he and Kong Ming and Pang Tong see Zhang approaching, dismounts to greet him properly. During the official banquet they discuss the somewhat temporary nature of Xuanda's lordship in Jingzhou, and the demands from Sun Quan for the return of the territory. Zhang Song, stressing Xuanda's imperial lineage, asks if it is not possible that one day he might ascend to the throne as a legitimate heir, to which Xuanda quietly defers. 3 days later, it is time to leave, and once again discussion turns to the perilous state of Xuanda's lordship and control of a region. It is now that Zhang Song puts forward his idea. "My lord, I am truly impressed by you, and so I'll be honest with you also. Lu Zhang isn't worthy of the lordship of Yizhou. He's weak and fails to make use of either the wise or skillful people in his court. He's threatened by rebellion in the north from Zhonglu, and so naturally people yearn for a better ruler. I was sent to seek help from Cao Cao, but discovered him to be a traitor unable to work with the worthy or draw upon the wise. So I came to see you. Come, take the Riverlands, take Shu for yourself. Start by pretending at first to be heading for Guanzhong, but then seize the whole land. Your place in the history books will be assured. If you're willing to do this, I'll do all in my power to assist. So, what do you say to that?" Xuanda repeats what he has said so often before about not attacking a member of the same imperial family. Zhang Song counters this by pointing out that others might get there before Xuanda does, and then he would be sorry. Xuanda, in one last attempt at diversion, says he understands the roads are terrible, and the mountains impassable. This is when Zhang Song produces the maps he has secretly taken. He shows Xuanda how to advance into Shu and assures him of support from his friends. "So long as the hills are always green and the rivers flow, I'll ensure you are rewarded," says Xuanda, to which Zhang Song replies, "I desire no reward, for having met a wise and benevolent lord, I've done what was necessary." Back in Yizhou, Zhang Song shares his plans with his friends Fa Zheng and Meng De. They agree wholeheartedly with his plan. They also plot to have Lu Zhang send them as emissaries to Jingzhou. The next day, Zhang Song reports back to Lu Zhang. "Cao Cao is a traitor and ambitious. He wants to take our land as well. I suggest, therefore, that we ask Imperial Uncle Xuanda, a man of great virtue, to help us in our struggle not only against Cao Cao but also Zhang Lu. His very name strikes fear into others." Lu Zhang is delighted with this suggestion and agrees at once. When he asks whom he should send to Jingzhou as ambassadors, he is also happy with the suggestion of Fa Zheng and Meng De. Despite the desperate pleas of some of his other advisors, who foresee that Xuanda will overrun the whole country, the plan is set in motion. Lu Zhang sends Fa Jing as his ambassador straight away. Fa Jing brings to the court of Xuanda a formal letter from Lu asking for his kinsman's help in destroying the threat from Zhang Lu. Over dinner that night, Xuanda comments, "I find it so hard to even contemplate the idea of attacking someone who is from the same imperial family as me." "My lord," Fa Jing responds, "Lu Zhang has every possible natural advantage, yet he is incapable of ruling. If you do not come to the rescue, others will seize the country from him. To be honest, it is as if the land is being presented to you." This calms Xuanda's nerves. Later that night, Pang Tong comes to him while he is wondering what the right course might be. Xuanda points out that he is the complete opposite of Cao Cao. Where Cao uses aggression, I seek reflection, he says. Where Cao is vicious, I am humane. Where Cao is wily, I'm straightforward. It's these differences which have given me the moral high ground. But if I attack my kinsman, all that would be lost. Pang Tong argues, that is all well and fine in ordinary times. But these are extraordinary times. There is no clear right path. You should follow the way of the ancient rulers, seize power, but then maintain it with integrity. Give Lu a region to rule by himself, but under you, and what wrong will you have done? For if you do not take the land, then someone else certainly will. Finally, this seems to put Xuanda's heart at rest, and he agrees to go. Dividing his forces, and leaving Kong Ming in charge at Jingzhou with Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Zhao Zilong in case of attack, he takes Pang Tong, Guanzhong, and Wei Yan with him. So, with a combined force of 50,000 men, they set off for Shu, having first informed Lu Zhang of their coming. Lu Zhang decides to go and meet Xuanda at Fuqing. This is strongly resisted by two of his advisors, so much so that one of them, Huang Quan, literally grips Lu's clothes in his teeth to try to prevent his going. The final attempt to stop him is dramatic. Lu receives notice that Wang Lei, one of his advisors, has strung himself upside down above the city gate with a letter of protest in one hand and a sword in the other. He threatens to cut the rope and crash to his death if Lu does not turn back from his planned trip and welcome. Furious that he is being denounced in this manner, when he sees himself as going to meet a benevolent and just man, Lu Zhang goes on his way. Wang Lei then cuts the rope and with a terrible cry falls to his death. Meanwhile, Xuanda has advanced into Shu territory and has given strict instructions that his men are not to seize any goods or harm any of the people. Fa Jing confides in Pang Tong that Zhang Song has recommended attacking Lu Zhang at the first meeting, to be held at Fuqing. Lu Zhang is very excited when he at last meets Xuanda, and in his enthusiasm casts all caution to one side. His advisors are much more cautious, warning that Xuanda's velvet glove hides an iron fist, but Lu Zhang will hear nothing of this. Following their joint banquet, Xuanda retires, and Pang Tong comes to see him. I suggest we strike now. Have 100 men hidden around the wall, and invite Lu Zhang for another banquet. If you give us the signal, for example, dropping a cup, we'll spring into action and kill Lu Zhang. Then our entry into the capital Chengdu will be unopposed. To this Xuanda replies, he's my kinsman, and were I to do this neither heaven nor the people themselves would forgive me. At this moment Fa Jing arrives and adds his words to the argument. This is not done for our own glory, but because it's the mandate of heaven. Again, Xuanda argues that he cannot murder a kinsman, but Fa Jing again disagrees, pointing out that if Xuanda does not seize control then Zhang Lu will. Having come this far across difficult terrain, what would be the point now of turning round and going away? Seize the moment, both heaven and the people want this, urges Pang Tong. The Lord holds to the true way. His advisors push forward with scheming. So what will Xuanda do? All will be revealed.